This is a quick lecture about Revit shadow studies. I had a colleague who had some trouble recently, and he was looking at two views of the same file that he thought were set to the exact same shadow settings, but they were actually yielding different results. And as you know, if you're going through a regulatory process, and in many municipalities they're very thoughtful about the disposition of shadows on public lands, you want to be correct about this. So this is kind of important. And we found a kind of strange, it's not really a glitch, but it's something you have to keep your eye on. And I'm going to tell you what that's all about. So this is the Revit example file that I'm going to use. I'm going to set this to hidden line so it's a little bit easier to see. And then I'm going to turn on the shadows down from the bottom bar here. And I'm going to come up to graphic display options, turn on lighting. And when I click in session lighting, you're going to see that it's down here on this click called lighting. I'm going to change that to still. Now these guys are presets, and you know if you use one of these and you use it for another view and you change it in the other view, it's going to change here too. So just be aware of that. These are sort of masters and will apply to other views. The in session still is just what's going on in this view. So that's what I'm going to set up, and I'm going to make this. First, you also have to be aware that you have to geolocate your file. That's important, and you can do that from here, or you can go up into the Manage tab. There's a little bar you can hit that'll get you into the exact same menu, and you can just do a word search. And this is giving me a little helper, so I can click that, and it gets me sort of down to my hometown, New Haven, Connecticut. And you can move this guy around by dragging and dropping, or plug in latitude, longitude, or an address, and it'll get you there. And that'll determine where the sun is in the sky. I'm going to change, just for this in session still, I'm going to change this to March 21st, which is actually the spring equinox. But I'm going to set this for a very specific time, so I'll go 10 a.m. in the morning and hit apply. Okay. I'll click OK. I'm going to not mess around with any of the other shadow density things right now, but I'll go to my site plan, and I'm going to do the same thing, which the shadows are already on. So I'm going to come here, go to graphic display options, click lighting, in session. Now what you might find in some plans is, and this was part of what was going on in my colleague's file, is that they're set to this. Okay, so now what these settings are for, the single day setting, you're going to see over on the right hand side there's a range of times, and I don't know why by default it goes to from 3:49 to 3:49, but typically you would set this from like 10 o'clock a.m. or whatever to 4 o'clock p.m. and then you can run an animation. You can even toggle it to a finer grain and run it out and see what happens in an animation over the day. So, but I want to do this apples to apples, so I'm going to set this guy to still. I'm going to go again to 3:21, 10 a.m. and I'll hit apply. And if I want to, I can even save these. Settings down here. I don't know why it's not letting me do that right now. I'll click OK, and I'll click OK, and then I'm going to split my screen, zoom to fit, and go to the top view of this guy, zoom on in there, and you can see all the edges of the shadow. This little bump here from the chimney. It's the same features. Actually, I think we have some people on in my 3D view that are blocking the shadow. So that's, you see it's the same features, the same contours of the shadow. So this is correct. Now, what my colleague experienced is they were moving fast and they were running through the views, and they had accidentally set the lighting not to a still, but to a single day. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to set this again to, I'm going to go 10 a.m. Set it to 15 minutes, apply, OK. Wow, what did it do? Whoops, I set it to 4 a.m. Sorry about that. 10 a.m. Apply. There we go. So it kind of it clicks itself back to the beginning, to this setting right here, 10 a.m. All right, that's what you expect to see here. But that was set up the same way in two views, but they look different. Okay. Now, what I discovered is this: you can come down here and click on Preview Solar Study. If you don't do that, you usually just come up here to the File menu, go to Export, come down to Animations, Solar Study, and you sort of do all your settings and output it. If you want to just preview that, you can come down to the sun path here and click Preview Solar Study, and it brings up this menu right up here at top. And I can click play, and you have to sort of sometimes wait depending on how big your file is, and it sort of runs through it, animates through it. Now if I hit escape and I stop, that menu disappears. I'm going to go back to preview and watch what happens here. I'm going to go 10. It clicks forward in the animation. And I'm going to hit escape again. You see how it's frozen that way. So I'm going to close this view. I'm going to go to my site view. My site view is not set to the animation, but it's if it were, it would be beginning at 10 a.m. and it would look like this. When I go back to my 3D view, you see it's actually saved itself and locked itself in that moment in time. So you go to Preview Solar Study and see it's on frame 10. And that was what was happening to my colleague. And it's really critical that if you're doing a moment in time, it's pretty simple. You set the moment in time. If you're running animations and you're relying on those same views to cut stills, you have to be very, very careful that you take a look at this and make sure it's actually set to the accurate place that you meant to set it. So that's the end of this lecture, and I hope you find this helpful.